Okay, welcome to another Friday Reads, where this is the third time I'm doing this intro because my cat won't shut up today for some reason. But this is where I talk about what I finished, what I'm reading, what I plan to read next, and there are books I'm going to talk about today that were not on the TBR. I have just doing something else. But I'm excited, and let's start off with the things that I have been reading slowly throughout the month. There's not many updates, but still working on Lord of Chaos. This is the audiobook. I am for sure finishing out The Wheel of Time via audiobooks, because I'm really enjoying it even with it being long and meandering. So that's good. It makes me a lot better with the writing style. I also can kind of glaze over the repetitive nature or the focus on certain aspects of a female clothing and things like that. But there are some things that haven't quite changed for me. I still don't like Matt. I don't know. I was being okay with Matt in the last book in this book, but then Matt just decided to be a butt again, and I just was like, Matt. I'm just still trying to find the moment where everyone else really likes him. It's been 6 books, and so far, if he was in my mutual friend group, I would always dislike interacting with him. I just would not like this person. But Nynaeve has gotten better for me, and traditionally, I know I would never want to do a group project with Nynaeve, but she's grown on me. She's had some growth this book. So that's my Lord of Chaos thoughts. It's a good time. It's a good enough time. I'm just glad I'm doing these via audiobook. I'm very curious to see what happens in the coming up books that everyone seems to, even if you like them, think they're not as good as the rest. I'm just very curious about how that's going to come across to me. So we'll see. Also still working on Memories of Ice. I am now this far, and it's every Malazan book has a similar trajectory for me, where the first part's ooh, I like this world, this is so intriguing, what's going to happen next, ooh, and then the second and third part are a lot of setup for great payoff, but sometimes that has slower pacing, it's very dense. And what I love is when we're in the banter with people and when we are having those conversations and I learn things about the people and the world through those conversations. What I like less is when I'm being described a place for a really long time, probably because I'm not a visual person. And there are some moments, there was a chapter or two recently that were really hard for me to care about, but then I just read a chapter that I couldn't put down, because we're in the payoff phase. I don't know what to call that in a Malazan book, because it's not like a Sanderlanche. It's not that fast-paced, but there's some payoff happening. There are some things that have gone down. I have learned some really cool things. So I really like this as the meaty, dense, you have to put a lot of work into it fantasy series that I don't know, makes my nerdy side really happy. Because I feel growing up I always wanted a fantasy series like this, but the ones that everyone else around me was reading weren't high enough in magic for me, probably is the best way to put it, and this just has so much magic. Quick Ben's a character in here, and he's a great character to see magic through, and that was just super, super cool. If you've read this book, I think you probably know about what I'm talking about. So this has been good, still slow going, but I'm still on track to finish it by the end of the month for Hephaestus. And now, what have I finished since last time? Well, I have finished The Jasmine Throne, and I'm going to film a review for it, so I won't talk about it too much, but I loved it. I read the last 150 pages in one sitting. If you saw my favorite characters list, there are some characters from here who showed up. I cannot wait for the second book, and next time you see my shelves, it's going to be right up there next to The Mask of Mirrors, because they're the same height and both favorites of 2021 so far. It was just so good. There were so many epic moments. What I've been talking to a lot of my friends about is there are certain tropes in fantasy that have been twisted in a really cool way here and focused on. In A Song of Ice and Fire, you have kind of nature, old religion, magic things, maybe nefarious, maybe good. You don't know. It's all very mysterious. That is in A Song of Ice and Fire. It is not talked about nearly enough in that series because we're all about the Game of Thrones and all of that. But here, it's intrigued and it's explored and it's really cool. We have great character interactions. We have fantastic politics. We've got ruthless leaders. We've got compassionate leaders. I really like it. I don't know if I'll coherently be able to talk about this in a review, but no, I loved it, and I'm really loving the orange cover trend that's been happening. I know I showed this off in last week's video, but still, this is fantastic. So I finished that, and then I finished believe it was called Mind of My Mind by Octavia Butler. This is the second book in The Patternist. And I liked it. I now understand, I think, why this series is called The Patternist. And what I think I now know about this series is that the last book chronologically is the first one published, and all of these other books are kind of like prequels that explain the situation that is in that last/first book. And I think I see something that, I mean, there was a thing called the pattern in this book. And I'm like, oh, well, if the last book's called Pattern Master and we're in the Patternist series, this is all clicking. It's interesting because I think I said last week we have a character that was in Wild Seed, but Wild Seed was written after this. That's not quite the same as what I would have expected based off the character work in the first book, and that bothered me slightly, but we're focusing more on Mary. And something I've been really liking in Octavia Butler's Patternist series, each book tends to focus on community and how this community is brought together, whether through a sci-fi or fantasy means or whatever, and how these communities interact with each other. And I haven't quite parsed it out yet, because these are works that don't spell it out for you. Like, you really have to engage with it yourself. Like, it's just an idea that's brought to you. But, like, man, I really liked that. And then I was just so intrigued at the end of that. It's like, well, I have Clay's Ark because I have the bind up and it's only 200 pages. Might as well, like, start that and it'll work for Artemis. I read that in a day. This is very different than the other two. The other two were very similar. We were dealing with telepathic beings in America and some immortal beings that were kind of heading those communities. That was the first two books. This one's like straight up like pandemic mode. So the book starts with someone who's crash landed, who knows they have a contagious disease, and that's how it starts. And you have this community of people with this contagion, and you have this family who's been abducted by this community, and that's the story. It's very thrilling. It's a very fast-paced, dark, very dark story. Like, this is not, I mean, no Octavia Butler so far has been light. She is not afraid to put characters in really dark situations, and your ability to be able to consume that is going to vary based off your own life experiences and everything. For me, I really had a good time. I could not put it down. And I think this one was the last one published in these 5, and probably feels the most out of place, but I think it's explaining a group of people that are maybe in the first/last book. This series makes no sense to talk about. It is so hard. But I read that in like 2 days, and then I'm sitting here being like, well, I only have 2 more books left in that series. And so one of them's not in print anymore, but you can get a PDF at Sister Sci-Fi for like $10. So I'll link them down below, and that's Survivor. So that's what I'm reading right now. And so it's called 3.5. It's the book between Clay's Ark and the Pattern Master chronologically, but it was published, I think, third. I think it was published after Mind of My Mind and the Pattern Master. And this is the book Octavia Butler does not like, disavowed, will not let be reprinted. I'm only halfway through. I think I could see why she doesn't like it. I think so far as a story, it's been good. I mean, I've had no issues with it, really. Like, I can see certain thematic nuances she wouldn't have liked in hindsight. I can see why, like, there are some quotes that come around where she was saying that it felt like her Star Trek story, where it wasn't very good at handling alien-human interactions as nuanced as she would like. I think she just felt it was a cliche. I could also see, like, one of the alien races, or the only one, they have different fur colors, and fur colors directly correlate to hierarchy, so maybe that, like, built-in colorism wasn't something she liked in the long run. I don't know. I've been trying to find more in-depth stuff, but so far I can only find that, like, one line about how, like, she was playing around with the whole humans meet aliens thing, and she didn't like how it turned out. And it's loosely connected because this traveling and the technology is based off people we have met earlier, but for the most part it's its own story. And, like, it's got some Stockholm Syndrome, like, Beauty and the Beast type stuff, but, like, I like that in a story, I guess. Like, I don't, like, love that in real life, obviously, but, like, that's been really interesting. And just, like, again, there's just a lot of intrigue. I don't know, like, so this one I'm definitely more experiencing on a pleasure read level than thinking about it thematically. But again, we have communities and we're exploring different communities and how they're formed and how they're maintained. But there are other things, like we're dealing with some addiction themes in this one and ways of breaking addictions, and some of them I haven't quite decided how I've come around on it yet, but again, remembering that this was written in the 70s and the knowledge we had in the 70s towards drug addiction and everything like that. But I'm about halfway through. It's pretty short. This one's also about 200 pages. And then I was like, well, I might as well finish it. I might as well read The Pattern Master, the last one. Yeah. So I also I want to know. I just want to have the complete picture, the pattern, if you will, of this whole thing. So those two can work for prompts, and they're really short. And this basically means I really don't have time to start and finish Hero of Ages for the readathon. I've accepted my fate. I can read it in July. My heart will not break. But I probably do have time to read one other thing, especially a quick read. So I think I'm going to read Dark Matter, which the Shelf Space book club's happening for this, and I've been wanting to read this forever. It's been a little over a year since I read Recursion, so I feel like I've had enough space between Recursion and this, because I know they are not the same, but I hear that they are not dissimilar either, and it's supposed to be like a thriller, action-packed, so it should be pretty quick. I already flipped through it, and there definitely seem to be pages of dialogue, and I'm like a sucker for dialogue-heavy things. So let's see what happens. If I can finish it by Sunday, I can be in the chat for the discussion with Leslie and Alan, which would be fantastic. And I guess that's another thing. If you didn't see on Alan's channel, I will be a co-host for the Shelf Space Book Club in September. We're going to read Hyperion. It's going to be fantastic. So just have that on your radar if you don't follow him or other Shelf Space people. If you wanted to reread or read Hyperion and talk with other people about it, that's going to be happening soon. But yeah, and for once, I don't have books to show you. I didn't buy anything this week. I had some self-control, and I walked into a bookstore and I didn't buy anything, which is new for me. So I think that's it. I think that's all the things I'm reading and trying to read. It's ambitious. I'm still, it's mostly ambitious because, this is chonky. It's chonky and it's dense, and I still haven't even finished reading the section I have to read today, but I feel pretty proud that I only have this much left. But let me know what you're reading, watching, etc. We are still doing our Marvel rewatch. We just rewatched, I want to say, Civil War. And Civil War is really good. I just really like Civil War. And so now we get into, is it phase 3? I don't know what the phases are, but we think Doctor Strange is next. I don't think I've watched that one since it was in theaters, maybe. It's been a very long time. My friends always say that would be who I was in the Marvel universe, or at least my one friend says I would be the most powerful magical person because I like to study, which if you've seen the movie, it makes sense. I would like to think I'm not as obnoxious as Stephen Strange, though. But that's it for this one. If you want to leave an emoji. Ooh. It should probably be something with the Patternist series, since that has obviously consumed my life. Put something down below that reminds you of a virus. So it can be a microbe or a science-y instrument, because that was a big part of Clay's arc, which I read so fast. So fast. I'm a sucker for kind of those type of stories, so don't know what that says about me. But if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.